What's up, heathens? I'm going to be answering a few of the finer points right after the video today, so I hope that you enjoy. Here's a preview.
Okay, was it the G protein? Was it, what within brain, okay, something that is material, and if you want to move past this question, that's fine, John. What do you know of that is material that can produce consciousness? Produce abstract entities? At what point within tell me which animal, which fungi, whatever you want to go back to, which one?
All right, so go on ahead with your second question. We could do two of your questions since I kind of took two.
Okay. Within your worldview, how do you make sense of laws of logic, laws of morality, and the uniformity in nature? And do you believe it is consistent with your worldview?
Okay, well, I've kind of already alluded to the laws of logic and all that. I mean, the laws of logic were developed by humans. The humans were describing the natural phenomena that we see, in our reality. That's how laws of logic came to be. I think one thing that you think is that somehow, like, humans magically created it through an X-Men genome thing that have the power to create abstract things. But I mean, our minds can create abstract concepts and abstract things. We do them all the time. So it's not really that big of a stretch to say that, humans created the laws of logic to describe the natural phenomena that we see. And I believe what you're trying to tackle here is the overarching, laws of logic existing regardless of whether or not we are here. And while that would be true, that doesn't mean that the laws of logic are the same in every bit of the universe. Like in everywhere, in every dimension or parallel universe, it doesn't mean that that laws of logic are consistent everywhere. They are consistent as we perceive them. But just like with physics and classical mechanics, right? Classical mechanics was developed by humans. Classical mechanics is an abstract thing, right? And then once we were able to change our perception, we were able to see quantum things like subatomic particles, and we were able to describe a whole new realm of physics called quantum mechanics. So it's all about how we perceive it. And like laws of logic, these quote-unquote laws of morality, which I disagree with the term laws of morality, but those things, the uniformity in nature, that is a concept created by humans, but the uniformity that we see in nature, we describe it that way because that is how we have experienced it, and that's how it seems to happen in reality. And then, do I believe it to be consistent with my worldview? Of course I do, because it's based on, the scientific method. It's based on, evidence. It's based on all these other things. So yes, I would say based on my evidentiary, empirical worldview, all of those things are accounted for.
Okay, well, and I'll allow the viewers to determine if your answers are sufficient to my questions. But if the law of morality being subjective, okay, let me get more specific. And I alluded to it earlier, if you put baking soda and vinegar, at what point does it produce a human being? What elements, that's more specific. What I'm trying to find out from you, John, what elements within the periodic table can account for consciousness or identity or self-awareness or the laws of morality or the laws of logic? And I find it to be rather disturbing that atheists such as yourself and others among you who follow in those groups cannot see the overwhelming evidence that something material cannot give an account for something immaterial without seeing and really not turning their eyes up to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So my question, to be very specific, at what point within the evolutionary chain, because you believe ultimately in the tree of evolution, correct? At what point from a fungi up into where we are now, and I know you can allude and tell me about a shark or a dolphin that has self-awareness, and you can use examples. My point is, how do you account for all of them within a human being? Since we are using science and you want to allude to the scientific method, which I also agree with, what point within the evolutionary worldview can you give an account for those things?
I have already specified it. We have higher brain functions that create these things. Like, it's a product of our minds. They are very much like what created consciousness. Nothing created consciousness. That's begging the question. Consciousness came, huh?
That is absolutely not begging the question, but go ahead.
No, it is begging to say what created consciousness. Nothing created consciousness. Consciousness came about with our higher brain functions. Like, sentient beings came about with higher brain functions. Like, it's how our brain has evolved. And, you're asking me to explain at what point in evolution, and I'm blatantly telling you, it's when we developed higher brain functions. It's when our brains got big enough in order to understand and construct these concepts.
Okay, was it the G protein? What within brain, okay, something that is material, and if you want to move past this question, that's fine, John. What do you know of that is material that can produce consciousness, produce abstract entities? At what point within tell me which animal, which fungi, whatever you want to go back to, which one?
You're being really insulting right now because you're not listening to me at all. I'm trying to explain to you in the simplest terms what it is. Okay? I am explaining to you that these abstract concepts come about because of our higher brain function. In evolution, when we developed higher functioning brains, that is when we started to develop all of these concepts. It was a long process that started over long periods of time. And you going back and being like, which fungi, which element in the periodic table did this? That's just absurd, and it's insulting to me and anybody that you talk about or talk to.
Okay, well, John, first off, I apologize if it comes across insulting. I'm asking you to stay consistent within your worldview and to use your worldview to support these things that are unexplainable, that can only be explained by God, but all of us live within the confines of. We all live with laws of morality. We all live within the uniformity of nature. We all use laws of logic, things that that's why I'm trying to ask that, and I apologize if I've come across insulting. That's not my intention.
It's only insulting because I've explained it to you several times that that it's not fungi or cauliflower or broccoli. It is just flat out insulting for you to keep going back to that. It's insulting because you're totally disregarding what I'm saying. That's why it's insulting.
Okay, well, in likewise, if you want to compare me to somebody who believes I'm dirt, I wouldn't be offended by that because that's my origin. I was formed out of the dust of the ground, and God breathed into my nostrils, and I became a living being. So if you want to call me a dirt bag or call me whatever you want, you're more than welcome to. I wouldn't be offended by it because that's my worldview. I agree with that. In your worldview, I don't understand how you could be offended by me just going back to the origin in which you subscribe to. But we can move on. I apologize that it's offensive.
I like that you can throw out these tangents and everything like that. But when I throw out some kind of tangent, we've got to put on all the brakes and we've got to turn the bus around. Like I don't understand that at all in our discussion here. I mean, because you throw out this tangent of, I don't understand why you would find it offensive to say that, from fungi to now, like when I've already explained it. It's not that you're comparing me to fungi or anything like that, or that like you compare, or you state the fact that Ray Comfort is made 50% out of bananas. What I'm saying is that you're totally disregarding what I'm saying. What?
I said I don't subscribe or like Ray Comfort, so that makes two of us. So so we would have something in common. I didn't think that would happen in today's discussion, but it just did. So I apologize. I will try not to do that. I want to give you the benefit of the doubt. I was pressing an issue that I find is really intriguing, and I feel like atheists should begin there with those type of questions, because I believe God has proven his existence and he loves you. And that is ultimately, John, my motive behind pressing so hard. So I do apologize. But do you mind if I go to my third question?
Well, I mean, that one was kind of 3 in 1, but yeah, we can go to your third question.
Okay. So I asked, do you believe that the laws of nature, the physical laws, such, and I gave gravity to you over the phone as an example, can be violated?
Well, I think the possibility is there, but as far as what I know or mankind knows, no laws of nature have really been violated. But then again, you can go and look at quantum mechanics, because, quantum mechanics exists alongside classical mechanics, because reality kind of changes when you get to the subatomic level. When you get to the subatomic level, different things can happen, like virtual particles exist, particles that can pop in and out of existence. Did you know that atoms are actually mainly comprised of the empty space between the neutrons and protons? I think that it's possible for them to be violated. I think it's possible until we actually see that happen in reality. We can't say that they do, but we have to be open for the possibility. Just like I'm open to the possibility of God existing. I'm open to the possibility of you converting me into a Christian right here and now. But you see, the problem is that possibility doesn't mean that it probably will happen or anything like that. Possibility doesn't equal probably. And it's about leaving yourself open to it being violated. Like if you shut yourself off to like the laws of nature being violated, like gravity one day just reverse its functioning or something like that. If you close yourself off to that, then I mean, if that were to happen in the future, what are you going to do? Like what you have things like Galileo. Galileo was persecuted by the Catholic Church because he said that the Earth revolves around the sun instead of the sun revolving around the Earth. So when you close yourself off to those particular things, you're winding up, making yourself be wrong when it actually does happen.
Okay. So just so I don't misunderstand you, your overarching opinion is that, yes, the laws of nature can, in fact, be violated.
I'm saying that it's possible for them to be violated, but not that they ever will or anything like that. Like, I'm just saying that I'm open to the possibility of them being violated.
Do you mind if I get either a yes or a no out of you?
Well, I feel like you're phrasing the question wrong. Like, can they be violated? I think it's possible. I feel like you're trying to frame it so that I'm saying, yes, laws of nature can be violated, but I'm saying that, no, the possibility of them being violated is true.
Okay. So
I'm saying that the question is bad.
Okay, well, I'm not finished with it, so we'll let the viewers decide that. But the question is, do you believe that the laws of nature, such as the physical laws, and I used one as gravity, okay, thermodynamics, whichever law, okay, can be violated? That's my question. Now I understand that physics, we can take a plane and we can fly away. I get that, but I'm asking, at any point in time within your worldview, I'm asking of your worldview, can that of gravity be violated? Can it change? Can it be any different than what it is right now? That's my question.
I would say, as we observe it, no, it cannot be violated.
As we observe it. So basically, as we observe it, okay, so you're basically stating that it's subjective, that it is not an absolute.
No. I'm saying that as we currently observe it, in our current knowledge, in our current observation of how this reality works, that law can't be violated. Now, could it possibly be violated? Sure, but I mean that's how scientific theories and scientific laws work. They have to have that falsifiable ability.
Okay, so I understand that we can be subjective and the way we understand it. That's not my question. My question is because you said that you do believe in absolutes. Okay, I'm asking, is gravity one of them? Can it be violated? The law of nature, can it be violated? And can it evolve? Seeing, and I asked you on the phone, and correct me if I'm wrong if this is not your worldview, but on the phone you stated that you believe in the Big Bang, and ultimately that's what gave life. And so at that point, that gives an account for all of the laws that we work within and the confines of how we live, such as gravity being one of them, causation from the Big Bang. Question is it's quite fascinating that those things are not evolving. Okay, but do you believe it could be violated? I'm not trying to insult you, John. I don't feel like I'm getting the answer. So, I mean, yes or no, can they be?
No, you're just not getting the answer that you want me to give you. Because I'm saying that as we observe it, no, that laws of nature can't be violated. Like, I cannot go out and just choose to, violate the law of gravity. No, that can't happen.
Okay. Well, I guess for the atheists out there that says yes, if you believe in a world in which case laws of gravity and universal laws such as those can be violated, then my follow-up question would be, is that then why depend on science to produce for you knowledge? Because if you can't rely upon the law of induction to be consistent, and you can't know gravity to not forever be changing, and we rely upon gravity to produce for us results that can be quantified and can be thought through critically, then ultimately, if there is no absolutes in that regard, okay, then you wouldn't depend on those things to give you knowledge. I, in my worldview, can account for knowledge because Scripture says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all knowledge, and that is, in fact, the recognition of his existence. And so it derives from his nature. That's where knowledge comes from. But as you observe it, well, that can change on a whim. That can change from person to person. That can change from scientist to scientist. So it doesn't sound like you're really subscribing to a world of absolutes.
Okay, look, like the law of induction, scientific method, and all of that, they have shown to be consistent. As soon as you can prove them to be inconsistent or not to give you, an accurate picture of reality, we will change them so that they will be. See, that's how it changes. Like if it were ever true that the law of induction doesn't work, we will just change it and come up with a new law. That's happened several times throughout the ages.
And I'm not trying to be insulting, but what is the law of induction to you? What do you understand by that definition?
Well, the law of induction is a way of inducing, or reasoning information from events or evidence or anything like that. That's what induction is. That's what deduction is. And it's because it's been proven to work. If you can prove it not to work, then we will change it. Like, for instance, with germ theory. Before we had germ theory, we didn't, we thought that, blood, was causing the sickness, and so that's why we bled people, so that you would produce new blood cells, and you would be rid of the sickness. And so, after germ theory was developed, we know that germs are the reasons why we get sick and all this, and that led to many other different discoveries. And so things change as we know it. Okay. Even the Bible has changed as our interpretations have changed.
No, I disagree absolutely. I would think that for people, as far as the blood goes, I just want to pick at that for a minute. If people would have known that draining your blood back then was wrong, if they would have just read their Bible, because Scripture says that the life of man is in their blood. And so, and they would have been. No, they were bleeding on the cross, but no. I think you should look into that a little bit.
Of the Middle Ages in Europe that regularly bled people to cure sickness, which was infested with Christians for hundreds of years, were not in fact Christians.
I'm saying that the minority of people, sure, may have had some Judaism, okay, in which case, and also Christian, but the minority, the doctors, the people within that era, no, I do not believe that. So here's the thing, John, and this is what's fascinating to me is that people keep making those claims. I'm not going to judge somebody. I'm not going to judge the Constitution because of how Congress interprets it. Okay. The Constitution remains constant, and it's in fact our means in which governs our society. And I'm not going to, just because other people have interpretations of it to be incorrect, I'm not going to take the minority even to suggest that somehow that it's incorrect somehow. But going back to the point, as far as the laws of nature being able to be violated, so from the sound of it, I hope the audience can catch this, is that what I understand you to mean, and I apologize if I'm not hearing you correctly, okay? You got to break it down Barney style, apparently, but I don't feel like the answer is sufficient. So as far as it being a violation, you said it's possible, okay? If it's possible, then that, to me, would be consistent with your worldview, seeing that evolution is moving forward, okay, whether it's from natural selection or evolved or emerged, okay? If that's the case, and it can change because evolution hasn't changed, it keeps moving us forward as a society, as a race, as a species, and it stayed consistent in that regard, then why would you depend upon things like the scientific method and laws of induction, which your definition I would have to disagree with. I can cover that in a minute. Law of induction, the scientific method, why would we depend on those things to produce for us knowledge if, in fact, they're changing all the time?
They're not changing all the time. I never said that they're changing all the time.
Okay.
They're not. I didn't say that they're changing all the time. I said that it's possible that they could. That doesn't mean that they are changing all the time.
So what happened, I guess, and side topic, forgive me, but I'm going off of the questions for a moment. So I guess what, in your worldview, as far as evolution goes, at what point did it start slowing down? At what point did all of a sudden it reach perfection? And because apparently gravity, as far as I know anyway, has been here since the existence of time. So, and it's not changing since, however billions and billions and billions of years it was. Gravity hasn't changed. So why is it that that's something that is abstract, invariant? How is it that it hasn't changed along with everything else?
Well, no, our understanding of gravity hasn't changed. You can't say that gravity itself hasn't changed or is the same everywhere. Like, you can't say that. You know how before I was saying I believe in an overarching truth, but in a truth that, we come to understand? That's what I'm talking about here. I mean, there's an overarching truth that concerns gravity. But as we understand it, gravity works a certain way. If we were to ever expand our understanding to include that new part of that truth, then science has an internal check and balance system to change.
Okay. So it's dependent upon our interpretation of it. Am I understanding you correctly? Because depending upon what we can observe?
Yes.
So then the question would be then, why would you depend upon science to give you knowledge if it could always be changing? You're not sure whether or not the results that was produced on this test are going to be consistent from the results that you produced on last week's test. You can never be certain about anything having held that worldview. There's no certainty in your worldview at that point.
Well, it's because it's repeatable and it is... it hasn't been proven to, not work. Like you haven't shown me that the scientific method gives me incorrect information. Like there's been no proof to suggest that it's a bad way to argue or to reason or to interpret the evidence.
No, I believe in science, and I that's what's kind of fascinating to me. I believe in using the scientific method. I just don't believe in the interpretations that man put on it. Like when they say terminology, such things like, the fossil records. Okay, well, first off, fossils can't speak; they're dead. Okay, I disagree with the interpretations of what man puts on them. But my question is that. I think the question was understood, and I guess, again, we'll have to leave it up to the audience whether or not that question was suffice for them. John, just so you know, with my version of reality, I can account for those laws. In Genesis chapter 8, it tells that there being seasons, there's day, there's night, there's cold, there's hot. I can give an account for such laws, such as gravity, such as, the changing of the earth, because I have an ultimate authority, which is Scripture, and I can make sense of that within my worldview. But within the world evolutionist, one that can't really give an account for absolutes, because according to you, and I don't want to misspeak here, but according to you, it's up to interpretation, and it's up to, what we understand at that time. I find it fascinating that you would even rely upon science to be a means to produce for you knowledge, seeing that there's no certainty in your worldview from the sound of it. But
all right, heathens, thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you will, please leave a comment down below as to what your favorite argument was, or something ridiculous Ben said, or maybe even I said. I did want to address the whole fact that he kept really pushing me hard on this whole what element produces consciousness or logic or anything like that. And, I got pretty insulted there, and I think I'm pretty justified in it, because I repeatedly tried to explain to him exactly, where consciousness and logic and all that kind of stuff comes into play. And he was not going to let it go, because I was not answering to his predetermined script. He wanted me to point out these things, and he expected me to respond with, well, I can't. And that was supposed to be some kind of gotcha. But that's not what he got. I explained to him exactly where it comes from, and he was not satisfied. He thinks I didn't answer the question. I, in fact, did. Oh yeah, that one thing was definitely begging the question. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, and I will see you heathens later.